Welcome to the Michigan Golfer Show. Join us each week as we explore the people, the places, and the events that shape our great game.
Hi, I'm Jennie McCafferty, and I'm at lovely Saskatoon Golf Club. And I think we have 5 courses to talk about. And with us are the owner, Joan Howard, and also Carl Pickard. And can you tell us what you do here?
Well, right now I just work on the grounds, but when I started here in 1963, I was the first golf course superintendent, and until for the last 25 or 30 years, Joanne's nephew Pat really did most of it. So I got to give him a lot of credit for a lot of the expansion and how the course looks now.
Well, Joanne, the courses here have such a remarkable history. Altogether, it started back in the 60s sometime. Can you tell us how you got started in the golf business?
Well, my husband Bill didn't live too terribly far down the road, and he always had his eye on this property, and it came up for sale. I think he graduated from college in 59. I think we bought the land in 60. Wow. And a leap of faith. And he always had in mind, he loved golf, which he didn't start playing till he was out of high school, but he fell in love with the game and the design and everything, and that was his dream, to have a golf course. So we started building in 63 and opened the first 9 in 64.
So several of the courses are very mature courses, let's put it that way. And in the meantime, you decided that 4 wasn't enough, that you would build the new one, the silver course. And that's remarkable because people who see it are going to also see some ravines there. So it's an unusual sight to see at a golf course.
It is. When Jerry Matthews came on board, he said he was amazed that we had a piece of property like that in this area. And so it's totally different from the others. I think the golfers will like it. It's beautiful. And I think one of the reasons the golfers do like to come out here is because all of our courses are a little different, and they feel like they're far away from city life. We have a lot of wildlife, and I think that's part of it. They love the beauty and being away from it all.
You do get that feeling like there's nothing around here except grass and trees, so it's pretty cool. And the ravine, of course.
Right. Well, we own quite a bit of property around here, so there won't be anything around us unless we decide to sell.
So let's talk about the red course.
Well, we opened it. It probably shouldn't have been opened as soon as we did. It was in need of a little help yet. Right, Carl? Yeah. Well, you could definitely see the rows in the grass and the fairways, and but of course that was sort of desperation. We wanted to get it open to help pay bills and such. And then as soon as we opened that, we were working on the white 9, and Mark DeVries did design both the red and the white. Okay. And we opened the white, I think, a year later than the red.
That's ambitious. You're already talking 18 holes.
Right. Well, my husband was an accountant by profession, and so he crunched the numbers and figured the more holes we had, the better the revenue. And then the blue 9 came along, about 73? And he figured that we could use the same equipment basically for 3 9s as for 2. And so originally Saskatoon was going to be 18 holes with a housing development around it. And we decided we didn't really want the houses, that we'd rather have more golf course.
So, Carl, you've been with Saskatoon for a while now. How has your job changed, that technology has changed and so on?
Well, I think the golf industry has changed a lot in the last 50 years. course, the golfer wants the greens faster, and in the old days, it seemed like if everything was green and kept up, it was okay. But things are a little different now, so I guess that's the biggest change.
That's the watering system, Carl.
Oh, yeah, well, we had the manual watering system years ago, and we changed that over in the middle 70s to automatic system.
Well, one thing you said makes me always wonder, what do you do to make the greens faster?
They're rolled 3 times a week, besides cutting a little shorter than we used to do. And so that's the main thing, is they're a little firmer and a little shorter.
And Joanne, you mentioned being out in the middle of a fairway and watering fairways.
Yes, I helped too change the fairway sprinklers and got a bath of the old type ones that you have to screw in. And so it was a great thing when they got them automated, and that was a big step. And now they're even more automated. Pat can change the watering system from home on his phone. So so technology has really changed over the years. And that's a good part of it. And golfers have changed. Of course, when we opened, there wasn't as many golfers, and one of our big things was rental sets, because everybody out in this area was new to golf, and so they learned. So they really didn't realize that the course wasn't in the very best of condition when we opened.
So that's something I hadn't thought about before. So you don't really need to rent clubs.
Very seldom. People from out of town that didn't bring their clubs, but rental sets are not a big thing, especially when there's a big outing and people come from all over. Sometimes they don't bring their clubs, and we have to have rental clubs. But no, it's not a big thing anymore.
The business of outings changed.
Yes, of course, they've gotten bigger because we have so many holes. We can accommodate a large group, and they like to spend the day. They'll come and have a continental breakfast, a box lunch, and a dinner after.
It makes a huge difference to have 45 holes.
Right. Of course, the last year was no outings at all because people could not get together afterward. So golfing changed through the whole pandemic thing. But we still, golf courses were open, and we still did a good business.
The features of Saskatoon, you have a practice range.
Yes.
And there's also some instruction involved?
Yes. Well, we have 3 practice holes plus the tee, and that's been very popular for instructions. We have children's clinics, adults clinics. They give quite a few lessons too, but that's really been popular. They fill up all the clinics, and it does help because they can take them out in the 3 practice holes, especially for younger children. You know, their attention span isn't so long. And of course, Tiger Woods coming along helped considerably because everybody thought their child could become a Tiger Woods.
I can see that, but also all those lessons, this is where people would come back to play.
Right.
It's familiar.
And we used to have the Caledonia High School started a golf team once we were in business, and we allowed them to come and play for free. And they built up their golf team and played here for quite a few years. I don't remember how many. And we also had East Grand Rapids and South Christian, I believe, and Ottawa Hills. We had quite a few schools, but we figured that was a way to get golfers. Because we were way out here in the country. When we built out here, there were no housing developments around or anything, and people felt they were going halfway to Lansing to get to the golf course.
So, Jerry Matthews has joined us, and in many ways, Jerry is kind of the Johnny Appleseed of Michigan golf courses, and you sort of thought you were going to retire after Northport Creek, I think.
Oh, that was the plan, but I was going to retire before Northport Creek, too, so I got So I got to retire twice, but this time I think I'm really retired.
So you met Bill Howard and Joan Howard sometime before you started working on Timber Ridge, is that right?
Yes, it seems like I've known them as long as I've been in the golf business. I really don't know. So, but Timber Ridge was, I think, the first one we started working together on a project. So that would be my starting date, but I knew him before that.
Michigan Golf Course Owners Association was one of the ways that?
That was, I think, the major way that I would say we met, yes.
So, I mean, that's a big deal, being part of that organization.
It's really grown over the years. When it first started, I think we had a meeting here in the clubhouse, and there wasn't many people.
So, basically, you've known each other for a really long time, and there are these wonderful courses here, starting with the white course and the red course and the blue course and this gold course. And then there's the silver course, and suddenly Jerry Matthews is back in business.
Well, Jerry Matthews never was fully out of business, so no, I'm back in business. It was my pleasure that they managed to call me and start this project, because I never got tired of what I did. I always enjoyed it, and I still enjoy it, but it's been quite a pleasure to work with this. This is one of the best pieces of properties I've ever seen for 9 holes. And I mean, as for being in southeast Michigan, southeast of, I call Grand Rapids home, so this is southeast Michigan to me, but southwest Michigan really. To find this piece of property with this much terrain change on it, and it's got a gap that the glaciers left in this thing that's about 40 foot deep and about 50 feet wide, and you just don't expect to find that in southern Michigan at all. Northern Michigan, yes, but not southern Michigan. It's a great piece of property.
Well, so some of us would call the gap a ravine. Is that fair?
I guess if you were from out west, you'd call it a ravine. I call it a gap that the glacier left, but it's a truly beautiful little ravine with a nice little stream in the bottom.
So, Joanne, when you bought that property, what were you thinking in terms of how it would react with the gap or the ravine?
Well, of course, Bill always was his dream for a silver over there, and the part where the gap, ravine, whatever you want to call it, we did not own. It was right next to our property, and so he kept pushing the gentleman that owned it, and finally he said yes, he would sell. And so then Bill really dreamed of the silver, and of course he definitely needed help, and he thought of Jerry.
So what occurs to me is that Bill had an extraordinary vision about golf courses.
He did, and he would take me out in the woods and say, "Now remember the tree back there? We'll start there." I could not see it; I didn't have the vision, but he seemed to have the vision, and Jerry just put it all together for him.
Well, I'm trying to go back to the meeting. The first time I came here and saw them and met with them, that was more about the people that I hadn't seen for a while that were doing this thing, and seeing this golf development that they had developed before we even started. I was quite amazed with what they had on site when I got here, let alone building another 9 hole. I said, "Why are you building another 9 holes?" And Bill told me why he was doing that, and I said, "My gosh, they know how to run a golf business." And you do.
So there have been a number of different architects, and Bill was certainly involved in some way of the designs. What were the early architects for the early courses?
Mark DeVries did the red and the white, and then Bill worked with him on the blue, because Bill felt we had enough room and thought it would be pretty back through there. And then Bill basically designed the gold, but I think Mark did help him tweak it a bit. And then Bill thought we had a great piece of property for the silver, but he didn't know exactly how to go. But Jerry pretty well followed a lot of the things that Bill had in mind. So
Any owner is going to have ideas about what they want you to do on their property. How do you handle those?
Very delicately. Well, some do and some don't. But I think what I do is kind of think one of the most fun things you could do in the world as it relates to golf. There are so many different things you can do, and not very many people are going to call you wrong just because of the nature of the business. It's a wonderful business to be in. I think it allows a creative mind to do an awful lot of different things within reason. And of course, we know what a lot of architects can do, and
Well, Jerry, you're
spending a lot more money than we do, but in playing a better game of golf than we do. But I think it's a great business to be in, just golf itself.
among the courses you've done is one near Lansing called Timber Ridge, and you worked with Bill Howard on that one, I believe.
Yes, we did. Bill was a part of that group, and we worked early on in that design and with that piece of property, which was another really. He must have an eye for picking pieces of property because he picked another good one when we did that one. Timber Ridge is one of the first ones I got involved with. Everybody calls that's one of that where that up north term came from. That this golf course is just like being up north. So.
Oh, well, I think one of the reasons Bill really wanted Jerry is because he keeps everything very natural and works with what was God made. And Bill liked that idea.
I think that's really the source of the name Matthews Natural Course Design, isn't it, Jerry?
That's where that came from, yes.
Yeah, you don't move a lot of dirt.
We try not to. Obviously, you have to move it. I think you
Yeah.
always move maybe a little more than you wanted to, and sometimes you don't have to move much at all. But one of the true pleasures that I have in golf course design is finding golf holes, not constructing and creating them, but finding them. And we didn't have to move much soil out here. Bill had.
No, I had to take some trees.
We had to take the trees out, which is kind of too bad. But on the other hand, you can't have a golf hole in the woods without taking the trees out.
Right.
So we changed that.
But we did save our favorite tree on 9.
Yes, I remember that tree.
Oh, you've heard about that tree, have you?
Well, it's the sort of thing golfers are going to remember.
Well, I think probably I got a little maybe possibly carried away with that tree in my own mind, but I still think I'm right, of course. So.
Well, I think you're right, too, because Pat said to me, well, we could take it out now. And he said, no, we can always take it out, but I like it.
Well,
it's the sort of thing golfers are going to remember.
Well, they're going to remember it, I think. But on the other hand, Bill is right. You can always take a tree out. If you don't like the tree, take it out. If it's a big problem, take it out. On the other hand, if you look at that golf hole and you take that tree out, you don't have the same golf hole at all.
No.
It makes the golf hole. I'm convinced of that, and I will stick with that. Of course. So.
Well, I think you're right, too, because Pat said to me, well, we could take it out now. And he said, no, we can always take it out, but I like it.
So, Jerry, if you've been designing courses for quite a few years.
Quite a few.
And golfers have changed. How have your designs changed to keep up with them?
Oh, the longer drives, hitting the ball longer. That's a good question. Bring me a beer now and we'll talk about that. Well, you're into a whole other subject about the change of the equipment and the golf ball and the clubs and the younger people. I've got a grandson now who's 11 years old. He hits it 200 yards.
Wow.
And I don't know how he does that, but he does it. And so many golfers are hitting it so much farther. But that, to me, is a whole other subject from what I
That's fair.
think we're doing today.
I think that's true. Well, of course, the clubs have changed. The balls have changed. And my goodness, when we first opened, there was not as many golf balls. And you either bought an 80, 90, or 100 compression. And you didn't have to answer all these questions now. But now I walk in the pro shop and Jeff has hundreds of kinds of balls, it seems like, and
Well, I would,
Golfers want to know about them.
I would just say that when I started with my dad in the early 60s, we used a landing center we designed as we always find a landing area. We call it a landing area. You have to pick a point. We used 200 yards.
Okay.
After being in business for I don't know how long, probably around Timber Ridge, we were using 220. Now we're using 270.
270.
That's changed the design
Yeah.
impact of how far people are hitting golf balls. But on the other hand, I remember being in a golf tournament at Green Ridge Country Club where I was born and raised, and one of the pros hit a green 300 yards away.
Wow.
So hitting a ball 300 yards is not a new thing. It just wasn't done very often. Now all kinds of people can do that. It's changed the design concepts and just stretched the golf courses out.
So, in closing, what can a golfer expect when they begin to play the new silver course?
Well, I have to be careful with this one because one of my concerns when we talked to Bill and Joanne earlier when we started is I was concerned about building a golf course that fit with what they had in the other 4 nines. And I still feel that was part of what we tried to do. On the other hand, I knew that it probably would not duplicate anything that they'd ever had. I didn't want to try and build something that was so difficult that they didn't want to play it because it was so difficult. And I don't think this golf course, I think it's extremely different. Number one, the land gave us so much to work with. There isn't very much land over there on that silver. It's very flat.
No.
And Bill, one of the things Bill did tell me not to do, he says, "You're not going to build me any flat greens, are you?" And I said, "I'll try not to." That's the one thing he told me to be careful about. So he did that. But that terrain, and I think every hole to me is almost a treat. And usually you can find a hole, I shouldn't be telling you this, but usually you have a hole that you put in there to get to the next really good hole. I didn't do that here. Really. And I've talked to Pat about that, and the land just lends itself to golf holes. It's just does that, and it's I think a real treat to go over there. And I mean, obviously I'm prejudiced. I helped create it, but I think Bill had a really good notion of what could be done there because it just falls into place. All the different designs we do, the preliminary designs, all we do, there aren't any bad holes on any of them. It's just the land lends itself to golf if you look at it from that standpoint.
Well, we're really sorry that Bill wasn't here to see the final result of the silver course because he would have enjoyed it, wouldn't he?
Yes, I think he'd be very proud. It's beautiful. It is totally different from the other nines, which is what he wanted. And I think he'd be very proud of the job that Jerry did. And I'm very pleased with it. And I think the public will like it too.
Thank you, Joan Howard, Jerry Matthews, and Carl Picard for talking with us about the silver course at Saskatoon.